Okay, this is a short video to describe how peer assessment works. So I'm going to sign in to my domain with somebody who has admin permissions. Because this particular functionality is under beta preview, there has to be a key set underneath advanced, and that key is called peer assessment. So first thing you have to enter into your Buzz settings is peer assessment. So once that's in there, then you're able to go to your course. Switch over to the teacher app. I'm going to come into one of my courses. I'm going to come into the syllabus editor and down into module 6. I've got a project I'm working on, and in that project I want to go ahead and add peer assessment. Now that peer assessment is turned on, you may have to log out and log back in order to see it, but when you come into new, you'll see that at the very bottom here you have peer assessment. I'm going to call this group peer assessment, and I'm going to go ahead and edit that activity. Your instructions will go here. The rest of this detail, you can put due dates on it, categories. You are not going to want to use this rubric. All of this will disappear when we recreate the new editors that are coming soon. So for now, you can set due dates, you can add it to the gradebook, things of that nature, but don't change up the score stuff. So once that's done, you'll notice down here that it adds a panel to the right hand side. Now with this panel, you can do a couple of things. You can add a rubric, and that rubric could be a rubric that's based at the domain level. So I should have showed that real quick. Let me just show it now. We'll switch over to the admin app. And new in the admin app, this is the first example of how to set rubrics at the domain level. And so if I come over to courses, you'll see that there's a rubric here. If I were to add a new rubric and give it a title, I can come in and edit that title. You can see I can start creating columns. I can create rows. I can change the example here, right? So this is below basic, and this is basic and advanced and proficient, or proficient, and advanced. And you can see if you change the values here, it'll change them across the bottom. You can always take these at your own discretion. So by default, you're going to have a maximum of 33, and as you move up, so no one's going to get a 10 in this kind of point scale, but you can see how this sets up inside the system. You then can give it what you're evaluating, observation and participation, and these are all rich text windows. So whatever I have in there, you can enter in your stuff here, your comments here. This is a rich text window, so it'll support rich text, bold, underlines, things of that nature. You may have to go to a different editor to get them right now, but that's how it kind of lays out. So you can set up the title, basic rubric, and you're off and running. So you'd fill this out. Now that I've given it a name, go ahead and save it. It will save it out here, and I'm off and running. This particular one, you can see what a completed one looks like. And the good thing is that once these rubrics are set up, as we build out the new authoring systems, you'll be able to pick from those rubrics rather than having to build them from scratch. So that's going to be really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and flip back over to the teacher app, and we'll go ahead and edit the geometry. Come back into the module I'm working on, and you'll see down here in project that I have a peer assessment. Again, title, description. Over here on the right side, I'm going to add a rubric. So now you can see I've got two. I'll take that one, say next. So I've got good detail in here, happy with the way it's laid out. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I could delete it. I could have added one from scratch. Now I've got a series of other options in here. So I can allow self-assessment and include or not include in the score calculations. We'll include it. Require comments, hide student feedback. Now in here I could let the student self-select. In this case I'm going to go ahead and choose the group, and that way they're in my control and not just randomly selecting students to be peer assessed against. So that's how you set it up, and it's good to go. It's saved, and we're ready to go to the student side. So I'm going to come up here and log out, and I'm going to log in as one of the students in the group that I just created. So we'll log in here, and you'll see that as I get down here into my geometry course and I'm back down into module looking at my course, now I've got a peer group assessment. You can see here the members of the group that I selected. I can review the items. You can see here color supported bullet list. If I wanted to get fancy I could, but you can go through and discuss what items need to be done, right? So in this case I'm going to go ahead and look at Jenica real quick, and I can give her a 9, or I can give her a 13, or I could give her a 22.5, whatever I wanted to give her. You'll see that the box highlights in that space. I can also select one that I think fits the closest, but it will give you the maximum score in there. So for the time being, that's how it operates. I did indicate that feedback was required, and so the feedback would be entered into the system. Here again, as I'm reviewing, give them a 15, more feedback, and lastly down in here I'm going to give them a 45 and a little bit more feedback. Now the feedback above could be available to the students as an option set there. So if you want to add private comments to the teacher, would go here, and I go ahead and save that. So now you can see how that pops up, and if I felt that I was overly brutal, I could always come back in and adjust that and then save it again. So not quite so brutal as I was before. So you can go through and peer assign the rest of these, which I'll do. You can see now that this student has done a peer review for all the other members of the team. So now I'm going to go ahead and submit that information to the teacher, and I'm good to go. Now that all the students have gone through and provided the group peer feedback, we're going to go ahead and log out and log back in as the teacher. So we're going to open up the geometry course, look at the performance page. We're going to filter down to project 1, which is where I was at. We could even filter further down just to group 1. So I'm looking at just the students who are in question. Now I'm going to go through and take a look. So you can see how we did on the 3 main areas of the rubric: communications, commitment to success, and leadership. Didn't do very good, but for the summary we can see how everyone responded to him in each of those areas, move through his comments and the private notes. And then you can also see each detail. So I'm going to drop these down so you can see them a little easier from a score standpoint. So you can see here details from others. You know, Jenica thought he did okay, but clearly there was a conflict here with Sharon and also with Olympia. Those two didn't get along with him very well. And if you look at how he rated them, you can also see here that in this case Cassandra and him probably didn't get along, I can look through to see how she did or his comments. But we give you the ability to exclude as well. So maybe I'm going to exclude this number and I'm going to exclude this number just because they clearly weren't getting along. And so I can see that if I take out a couple of the kids, I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. I'm going to give him a 70. I could go ahead and leave some comments as well, but I'm going to go ahead and submit the score. And so that's how I could work my way through the rest of these, looking at each of the pieces of the puzzle that have been submitted by the students. If I were to go back to the student side, now I can go back in and look at that particular project and the peer feedback. I can see I got a 70 on it. And now because I've set it up this way, I can see how those scores were generated and I can see the feedback from the participants. And I can see specifically what they said about me. So overall, you can hide this feedback if you don't want to have it there, but that's how it's set up in my particular circumstance. So, good things with the rubrics, good things with peer assessment. Hope you enjoyed this.